But I want to go a little further with this idea of addiction, of relationship addiction. And I want to divide it up into three categories, which is self, other, and the relationship field. And sort of go into some of the theories in each of those areas of relationship addiction, and also after each one do some more kind of superficial suggestions, and then at the end do an exercise that I think is a deeper way of working with the underlying roots of the addiction. So I'm going to start with addiction to self. And what I mean by that is that I think there's something about relationships that give us an opportunity to witness and experience ourself through the feedback loop of the relationship. And that we can actually become addicted to that experience of witnessing ourselves that the relationship provides. So in relationship addiction theory, they say that part of how it develops, and they're psychologists, so they always refer everything back to early childhood, but it might be early childhood, it might be experiences in the world, it might be even just the way that we're wired as human beings, or maybe experiences that come from beyond even this life, right? But the sort of textbook relationship addiction theory says that in childhood, if you experience either very outright crude neglect, like your immediate needs aren't met, like you're left in a room to cry, you aren't fed properly, things like that. Or on the other side of the spectrum, if you have parents who are overly involved with you, overly enmeshed with you, and violate your boundaries, and see you as an expression of themselves, and sort of use you as a way to fulfill their own emotional needs, that in either of those two cases along that spectrum, something very fundamental about your own ability to understand yourself isn't able to be developed. So in either case, you begin looking for that sense of self through your relationship with the other person, either because you desperately need the other for some basic needs, or because you're entrained to view yourself relationally in terms of who you are with the over-involved parent and how you're in sort of molded to fit their needs. So that your very existence, your very understanding of yourself as a self that exists becomes involved in sort of this projection of understanding it through the relational loop. So your existence is affirmed and maybe even created through your relationships to other people. And I think there is a truth to the fact that we are human beings and that we are relational creatures, right? That we know ourselves through how we relate, and it's actually our capacity for social organization that's made us so successful as a species. But there is a difference between being able to relate when we have a developed sense of our own being versus projecting the capacity of our very understanding of who we are into the other person and the information we get from the relational field. And I think sometimes we can enter into a relationship grounded in a sense of our own being and slowly lose that over the course of the relationship. You know, some of the clients I work with say, I don't understand. When I was single, I was able to be totally self-sustaining. And then now I'm in this relationship and I've completely lost myself. And I'm going to go into just my personal theory about this because I found it very helpful for me, which is that I think part of the way that we're taught to love, part of the narratives of romance that exist in media, in Hollywood, entrain us into this kind of love that easily lends itself to starting to validate who we are through the other person.